All right, let's watch. This is an hour and 30 minutes long. Holy fucking shit. Ready? Jack, get cozy.
Super Mario Bros. 3 speedruns are some of the most competitive out there. It has a degree of randomness not found in most platformers. So much out of your control needs to line up. But it also requires relentlessly precise platforming through the entire game. We've already been over warpless world records in this game, but there's another even tougher category: 100%. And over the past 10 plus years, it's become one of the most coveted NES world records. This is the history of Mario 3 100% world records.
Why do you guys keep adding Mitch Flower Power? Who's that?
So,
Listen
what
here, you
is a
scumbag piece of
100%
shit.
speedrun?
You still owe us a house tour
Well,
from the
for a
lab.
normal warpless speedrun of Mario 3, the only
Hold on,
requirement
wait,
is
we're
that you
watching this.
can't use any of the game's warp whistles to jump to a later world. However, that category still lets you skip over certain levels, since you aren't required to play them all to beat the game. But for 100%, the rules are a bit stricter. You've got to complete every stage and every map enemy through the entire game. That includes all the numbered levels, forts, airships, and hand stages, as well as enemies like Hammer Brothers and Piranha Plants. It's a brutal category. You can't skip over anything dangerous.
That's kind of crazy.
The origin of this category comes from a speedrun from December 2005, performed by David Gibbons.
Leaked.
Now, David Gibbons may not be a familiar name to most, but back in the early 2000s, he was one of the most prolific speedrunners around. He held world records in Mario 64, GoldenEye, Castlevania 64, Donkey Kong Country 3, the list just goes on and on. And on Christmas Eve 2005, he added Mario 3 to that list. A 100% run clocking in at 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 10 seconds.
Dang.
Let's dive in. Gibbons played on the Super Mario All-Stars version of the game, but since all his other records were on SNES and N64 games, it's likely Gibbons played on this version since he didn't own an NES. He started in World 1 and began making his way through the game. Gibbons'
thought he had to
first
kill every
goal
piranha
was to
plant.
build up the P meter as often as he could. The P meter checks every 8 frames whether you're running and whether you're on the ground. If both are true, then an arrow builds in the meter, and if not, then it'll lose an arrow. Once the meter is full, you get P speed, allowing you to run much faster than normal. So, throughout the entire game, Gibbons frequently tried to run on the ground and build P speed. In World 1, he was able to build it on several occasions, but usually slowed down and lost it slightly after. As a whole, Gibbons was going through stages quickly, but some levels looked more like a casual playthrough. 3-2 in particular had a lot of falling in the water and riding on slow-moving platforms. Since the run was so long, he played a lot of sections safe, slowing down to ensure he didn't take damage or die. But whenever he built P speed, he was able to fly through levels. And all the while, he was collecting items, which the game automatically gives you after completing worlds and fighting Hammer Brothers. He saved most of these until World 7, which features many of the game's longest stages. So in 7-6, for instance, instead of entering the door to play the level, he used a P-wing to fly over the wall and run to the other side. Level complete in a matter of seconds. All in all, this was a pretty impressive speedrun for its time, and it got a positive reception in the community. But there were a lot of safe strategies used, and it was obvious the world record had potential to go lower. That being said, for the next 6 years, David Gibbons' run remained as the fastest recorded 100% time. During that period, new Mario 3 runners joined Speed Demo's archive, but for the most part, they focused on the game's other categories. However, for Awesome Games Done Quick 2012, a runner named TJP7154 submitted Mario 3 100%. It got accepted, meaning he'd be running it in front of thousands of viewers that January.
Dang.
So, TJP had to practice. He began streaming 100% runs on his Twitch page, and in November 2011, he beat David Gibbons' record. But this time, 100% looked a little different.
Oh, fuck! He's hot!
On November 6th, 2011, TJP beat the record by over 2 minutes.
Yo!
A 121.56. And he was able to take full advantage of what had been discovered over the last 6 years. First off, he was far better at preserving P-speed. For instance, in 2-2, he turned back at the start of the stage to build P-speed, then precisely jumped to maintain it through the whole level. 4-3 was more of the same, maintaining P-speed by mapping out his jumps perfectly. It was overall a higher level of gameplay than Gibbons' run. There were also smaller optimizations TJP made. It seems logical to jump to get the wand sooner after a Koopa fight, like Gibbons did, but Mario eventually has to slowly fall to the bottom of the screen after grabbing it. So, if he grabs it on the ground instead, Mario falls a much shorter distance and actually
Gibbons, you
gains
stupid
time.
fuck.
He used this throughout the run to save a few seconds. But here's the thing about TJP. He was practicing for a marathon, not trying to optimize a world record. He was also a showman, never afraid to go for the toughest tricks even if they were risky. So, despite some impressive time saves over David Gibbons,
Simply shows up soon.
TJP also died 5 times and took damage on numerous occasions. It made for an entertaining run, despite some obvious places to improve. But the biggest addition to TJP's run? He used every trick to his advantage. Welcome to the wonderful yet punishing world of Mario 3's glitches. This is stage 6-9.
Ooh, is this new music?
Normally, you enter the pipe and play through the level, but instead, TJP did this. It's called a wall jump, an incredibly difficult glitch in Mario 3. First off, you need to jump into the top 6 pixels of a block, and then jump again the frame you hit the block, although in rare cases you may get a second frame. That means you have 6 pixels of wiggle room, and then must time a jump down to the 60th of a second. That's not easy. But then there's stuff out of your control. In order to have the chance to wall jump as Small Mario, you must be at least 2 pixels into the wall. When running, Mario moves 2 pixels and 8 subpixels per frame. There are 16 subpixels in a pixel, meaning essentially he moves 2.5 pixels per frame. Depending on how you're lined up, the wall jump can be impossible. For instance, if you happen to be 1 pixel away from the wall with a low subpixel value, you'll only be 1 pixel deep into the wall on the next frame and won't have the chance to wall jump.
Right, of course.
If you instead had a high subpixel value, the 8 subpixels gained would cause Mario to move an extra pixel deep, and the wall jump would be possible. The math works out so that you only have a 60% chance to get the wall jump, even if you do everything right. Your subpixel value and distance from the wall must line up properly. Another trick that requires both a precise jump and sub-pixel luck is clipping. If you jump right into the corner of a block as Big Mario, the game thinks his head is stuck inside, and its solution is to zip you out to the right. This means you can skip straight through entering a door to play a stage,
That's cool.
and go right to the end. But of course, in addition to needing a frame-perfect jump to hit the corner of the block, you also need sub-pixel luck to clip in far enough. Even if you get a frame-perfect jump every time, Mario only zips less than half the time in practice. As difficult and random as these tricks are, TJP was committed to going for them. He went for the wall jump in 6-9 and got it 7th try. He went
Squeaks, I'm stuck at the airport. Squeaks here. All right, wait, so you coming over or what, Squeaks? What's going on?
for the clip in 7-1 and got it 17th try. He went for a clip in 7-5 and failed 9 times before giving up. Finally, in 7-6, he hit a clip first try, vindicating his efforts. Was this all actually worth it? Well, despite a lot of misses, TJP clearly showed that if performed fast enough, the wall jump and all the various clips could potentially save big time.
They lost your luggage?
A few weeks later...
Oh yeah, that shit's gone, Tweaks. They're selling that somewhere in like the, you know, on the other side of the world. That shit's gone. I'm sorry.
Just before his GDQ run, TJP set another 100% world record, 120.29. It was cleaner overall with fewer deaths, and took no more than 6 tries to get the major clips in World 7.
Squeaks, next time don't get speared. Are you dumb?
Despite a lead of over 3 minutes,
or next time message Nick and Elena, not me.
TJP couldn't help himself from going all out in the last stage of the game. He started by going into the basement and failing a clip 31 consecutive times. He then returned to the start of the level and attempted a different clip 4 times before giving up and taking the elevator. He then successfully hit a clip at the top of the level,
Oh shit.
but it actually lost him time because of how slowly you move through the wall. He may have lost over 1.5 minutes in one stage, but his run looked cool and was still a world record. Now, TJP's run stood as the official record for about 8 months. It was beaten in August 2012, and the runner to do it is pretty well known today.
Simply?
Mitch Flowerpower.
Oh.
By 2012, Mitch had already been a top Mario 3 runner for years. He got the Warpless record in 2010, and likely had a 100% run faster than TJP's runs back in 2011. But he didn't record his time until 2012.
It's officially
By then,
Ramadan, say Ramadan
Mitch's skills had
question.
risen far beyond TJP's. And as a result, he was able to do this to the world record.
No way.
100% had just been taken to another level. And the way Mitch did it, P-speed, P-speed, P-speed. He had practiced runs of individual levels for years, and was able to apply P-speed techniques there to full game runs. The only problem with this record, it wasn't exactly 4K quality, a low resolution camera pointed at a TV. But the gameplay on the screen was unbelievably high quality for the time. Take 1-3 for instance. Mitch did a tiny jump over a Koopa to build P-speed while jumping off the boomerang, bro.
Yo!
Take the first fort in World 4. This is an incredibly tough stage, but Mitch kept P-speed the entire way through. There are some really precise jumps in there, but he never slowed down. Mitch's gameplay was
This
not
is better
only
than the Elgato
cleaner,
capture card,
but
too.
also smarter. In World 6's first fort, Mitch powered up, then intentionally took damage so he could run on the spikes quickly, instead of
that's smart.
slowly riding on the platform. There were time saves like this all across the run, allowing Mitch to be multiple minutes ahead after 6 worlds. But instead of going for the wall jump in 6-9 and the clip in 7-6, Mitch used P-wings in both stages to fly straight up top, instead of using them for safer strategies in stages like TJP did. He still managed to get 7-1 clips second try, and got a couple clips in 7-5. It was far from a perfect run, but Mitch's 114 was the new gold standard for 100% runs.
Chat, why can't you be like this?
Now, when compared to Warpless, Mario 3's other long category, 100%'s leaderboard was a little different. Mitch was way ahead of the pack in 100%, but he had one active competitor for Warpless runs,
Simply.
a speedrunner known as Karua. Throughout 2012, Mitch and Karua were locked in a Warpless world record battle, trading the record back and forth throughout the year. Mitch knew Karua would be an incredible 100% runner if he ever gave it a try, and he encouraged him to start running it. So, later that year, Karua did. And in December, he beat Mitch's world record. 113.52.
Mitch.
Karua had a different approach this run. Mitch went all out, executing as many tough strategies as he could and being less concerned about mistakes. Karua, on the other hand, went for a more consistent run. He expected to get hit and make the occasional mistake, but his initial goal was to avoid dying, something TJP and Mitch failed to do. He also wanted to have a cleaner run overall. Mitch had some slowdowns in World 5, while Karua was able to hold on to his Fire Flower. This allowed him to build P-speed in 5-3, while Mitch had to slowly jump his way through. Keeping with his conservative strategies, Karua saved a lot of items for the later worlds, and P-winged over 6-9 and 7-6. He also used the P-wing in 7-9, allowing him to go straight to the top and skip part of the maze-like stage. He still went for the 7-1 clip, and got it 5th try. So overall, his safe strategy worked beautifully. Karua completed the run without dying, and ended up with a 43-second world record improvement over Mitch. The run certainly wasn't without its faults. Small time losses were scattered across the run, especially in World 6, and he took a lot of time trying to build P-speed at the start of 7-2. But Karua said that all he wanted with this run was a starting point. He wanted to achieve a clean world record, and then return to improve it in the future. So, 5 months later, that's exactly what Karua tried to do. On May 19th, 2013, after a break from doing 100% runs, Karua got on a pace with a beautiful first half. He bled a little bit from slowdowns in World 5, but his World 6 was much cleaner than his last record. Karua was over half a minute ahead into World 7, but he still had to get the 7-1 clip. First try. He also gained time by building P-speed faster in 7-2, and suddenly...
What happened? It says that I have audio on and then you can't hear the audio, so everything is ruined. I don't know how to fix it. What do I do? No, I think I have to do a new VOD. Do you guys hear the music? What about the alert? Did you hear the alert? What about, so what do I do? Restart OBS? Wait. Okay, do that. Did you just say fuck you to me?
He was over 41 seconds ahead going into the final world. World 8 is a very interesting world in Mario 3 speedruns. On its surface, it doesn't seem that difficult. Nearly half the stages are auto-scrollers, which are essentially cutscenes for speedrunners, and the remaining stages don't have many super difficult tricks. You don't even have to worry about the hands like you do in Warpless. You're forced to play them all in 100%, so the only RNG is a 1.5 time loss from getting pulled in by a hand versus selecting it manually.
Oh, yeah, I remember this level.
So, World 8 shouldn't be that tough of a world. But the remaining levels, 8-1, 8-2, the Fort, and Bowser's Castle, they may not be super difficult, but they're just hard enough that, when combined with the pressure of being on world record pace, it can be very easy to make a mistake. With the pressure off, top runners rarely make mistakes in World 8. But everything changes when you're on world record pace. One slip of the button, one mistimed jump, and your world record chance can vanish.
Oh, how is he supposed to know that's gonna happen?
3 consecutive levels with a mistake. The pressure may have gotten to Korua. But incredibly, since he led by so much going into World 8, he still pulled off a world record by 7 seconds. This may not have been the record he was going for.
This is a classic Liam
but
run.
Korua was in it for the long haul. 100% had turned into his new favorite category, and he was willing to devote most of his attention to it. And so, throughout 2013, this is what Korua did to the world record.
Montage time. Chad, do you think Tectone could ever do something like this? Content.
4 months later, Korua had taken the world record all the way to 1:12:40. Despite lowering the record by over a minute, there weren't any big new strategies.
Hold on.
The
Someone in my chat just said, "Holy, the black hair is making you super hot." Bro, it's blue.
Yo.
You're not gonna like my next you laugh, you lose then, man. It's gonna be rough.
improvements came from making fewer mistakes and slowly adding in small time saves. An example of this is 4-1. Korua used to never build P-speed in this level, and just jumped his way through while slowing down as little as possible. But starting with his 1:12:40, he picked up a Koopa shell, then used it to run into a Parakoopa so he could avoid taking damage and build P-speed. He could then preserve it across the remainder of the level and save a few seconds. This was Korua's category. Mitch was close to him at the start of the year, but as he chose to focus on other categories instead, Korua was able to pull away. And as a result, the gap between the two of them was nearly 2 full minutes. But then, something interesting happened. Mario 3 100% was accepted into AGDQ 2014, just as it had been 2 years prior with TJP. Only this time, it would be a co-op run, with Mitch and Korua both playing. So, Mitch had to get ready. He'd spent the year playing the game's warpless and any percent categories, setting a total of 5 world records between the two. But he hadn't played 100% in over a year, and since then, Korua had lowered the record 7 times. So, during preparations for that year's GDQ run, the question was, could Mitch keep up with Korua? And on November 13th, 2013, that question was answered. This was a record improvement of 7 seconds, but there's one important caveat. Mitch played on an NES, while Korua played on Wii Virtual Console. These consoles have different frame rates, and essentially meant that Korua was playing in slightly slow motion compared to Mitch. Over the course of an hour-long speedrun, it worked out that Mitch gained 20 seconds over Korua
come
from
on!
frame rate differences alone. So his improvement of 7 seconds was a slower played run overall. But it was still the world record. Mitch's strategies were quite different than Korua's. In the World 2 Fort, for instance, Mitch intentionally lost fire to damage boost off the spikes. It's faster initially, but you lose time by not being able to fire kill the Boom Boom and having to power back up later. Mitch also gained time back in a few of the stages where Karua lost big time, but he had his struggles too. His 7-1 clip was 12th try. Yet when factoring in the time save from frame rate differences, it was still enough to beat the world record.
I did it.
After 15 months of dominance from Karua, Mitch was back on top. But in the lead up to their AGDQ run, Mitch wasn't the only one practicing. Karua started doing 100% runs as well. And this time, there was no more Wii Virtual Console. Karua switched to playing on an NES. And so, just a few weeks after Mitch's record, Karua beat him back by 24 seconds. Keeping with the theme from these two runners, Karua's record was more consistent than Mitch's run. Mitch had lost fire in the forts in Worlds 4 and 5, while Karua didn't get hit in either spot. And instead of a 12th try 7-1 clip, Karua got it first try.
Ooh.
He did die in 6-3, but it wasn't a significant time loss since he was already Small Mario, and it was at the start of the level. It was a quintessential Karua world record. He went for fewer extravagant tricks compared to Mitch, but was steady nearly the whole way through.
Yeah, that's rare.
And it paid off beautifully. Mitch and Karua continued practicing in the lead up to AGDQ 2014, but neither lowered their 100% time. But then, the day before the marathon was scheduled to start, Karua came through with one more world record, the first 111 in the game's history. It was a bit more of an up and down run, with Karua losing fire in World 3 and missing a tail swipe in 7-5, causing him to lose time going for the backup.
Thanks, Sock Monkey.
But this run is notable for one particular trick Karua went for. It's not a huge time save, but is extremely difficult and punishing if missed. The trick is in World 3, saves 3 seconds, and fittingly, is named Door 3. In World 3's first fort, there's a hallway of doors that lead to different areas. You're supposed to go into the 6th door, then jump up to a higher door and enter the boss corridor. However, if you instead enter the 3rd door and press up to re-enter the door as soon as Mario spawns on the next screen, you can enter it again and are sent straight to the boss corridor.
Yo, that's sick.
This saves 3 seconds over going to door 6, but it's incredibly risky. You only have 1 frame to press up as you spawn on the screen, and if you miss, you fall into the water and lose 11 seconds. It's extremely high risk for not a huge reward. But Karua went for it since his run was off to a slow start, and it paid off. A few days later, Mitch and Karua had their GDQ run, and then both players took a break from 100%. The world record had entered the 111s, and although there's a limit to just how optimized an hour-long run can be, it was starting to get there. There weren't many huge time saves left. The smaller things were becoming more and more important. But when Karua came back to 100% runs in March, one element of the run in particular was gaining relevance. So far, we've talked about all the execution and tough tricks required in a 100% run. Building P-speed, getting clips, and all the rest. But we've been ignoring a big aspect of the speedrun. Mario 3 100% has one other major component: RNG. It's time to talk about the Hammer Brothers.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. How does he find all this music?
The first 6 worlds in the game feature one or more Hammer Brothers on the overworld map. After every level you complete, or every time you die, these Hammer Brothers randomly move in an available direction. They only intend to move one space at a time, but they can only stop on an unoccupied tile. So if they land on a level or another Hammer Brother, they have to move again. All the Hammer Brothers move at the same time, but you have to wait for whatever the longest movement is to stop before Mario can move. So if one Hammer Brother moves once while the other moves twice, you end up taking the time loss from a movement of 2. Now, you can get some pretty long movements from the Hammer Brothers. In World 5, this Hammer Brother can't stop on the fort, and then can't stop on level 8 or level 9. So, he has to move 4 spaces before he can finally stop. Each additional movement costs 32 frames, or roughly half a second, so a movement of 4 loses a second and a half over the optimal movement of 1. But under perfect conditions, you can get even worse movements. If the Hammer Brothers never land on an open tile, they have to keep moving.
Oh, that's cringe.
They can even get stuck on
that,
top
fuck.
of each other if they meet at a 3-way intersection.
lame.
Speedrunner Stewie Cartman has one of the longest Hammer Brother movements on record, and movements like this can theoretically take place in any playthrough of Mario 3. It probably goes without saying that if this happens in a run, it's an immediate reset.
Wait, what? It's still going? Are you kidding me?
Even without a super long marathon movement, Hammer Brother movements can still cost the player big time over the course of a 100% run. An extra movement is only half a
that's a
second,
good record.
but there are dozens and dozens of spots for movements during a run. In World 5 alone, getting the worst possible versus the best possible Hammer Brother luck is about 21 seconds of difference. Extrapolate that to the full game, and one speedrun to the next can have significant time variance from RNG alone.
Hi, chat.
So, when Karua came back to attempts in March 2014, Hammer Brother RNG mattered more than ever before. On March 27th, he got on a run that pulled ahead big time after World 3. This was partly thanks to quick Hammer Brother movements, but mostly because he didn't get hit in the fort like his last record. World 4 featured great Hammer Brother luck. 2 movements of 2 and 5 movements of 1, and he didn't have to travel far to fight them either. Unfortunately, World 5 wasn't as kind, as he got several movements of 3. Still, going into World 7, Karua had built up a substantial lead, and it just kept getting better. 7-1 clip was first try once again, and he got the tail swipe in 7-5 that he missed in the last record. Karua had a 17-second lead into World 8,
25 health or 25
but we
lives.
already know how hard this world can be under pressure.
Oh, God.
These mistakes lost 12 seconds combined. Still a record by 5 seconds, but World 8 was starting to become a problem spot for Karua. But just a week later, he had a chance for redemption. Karua carried an 8-second lead after World 6, but this run is notable for the new strategies Karua went for in World 7. In 7-9, he successfully hit a clip that saves 5 seconds.
Ooh, that was clean.
Instead of having to navigate the maze normally, you can go right through the wall to skip a segment of it. And in the second fort, Karua went for a beautiful strategy where you preserve P-speed throughout the 2 rooms. It's incredible to watch. You must throw fireballs and time your jumps perfectly in room 1, then do incredibly precise jumps while ducking in room 2 so that you never slow down.
That's crazy.
These 2 strategies combined meant Karua was 15 ahead into World 8. This was his chance. But once again, World 8 stood between him and the world record. He needed a good world.
Oh.
And that's exactly what he got. It made for a remarkable 1:11.26, a world record cut of 27 seconds. The run was solid through World 5, but a gold World 6, combined with the new strategies in World 7 and a clean World 8, pushed it over the top. Simply put, this was an amazing world record.
Oh shit, simply.
So amazing that for the next year, it would stand on top of the leaderboard unchallenged. But even with no competitors in sight, Kurua still wanted to push his time lower. In early 2015, he came back to the category, largely thanks to a few new strategies he could use to shave off some time. The biggest one was an overhaul of level 6-5. This is the infamous stage where you're supposed to build P-Speed, then fly up with a Koopa shell to clear out the plants and make it to the pipe. Building P-Speed is easy, but it took speedrunners time to pick up the Koopa shell. However, Kurua began using the 6-5 despawn strat. Mario 3 only has 5 available sprite slots at a time. If a 6th sprite appears on screen, it'll simply be despawned right away. So, by running and not slowing down, then tail swiping a Buster Beetle, he'll stay on screen longer and take up a sprite slot. The next Beetle is in slot 2, the Koopa is in slot 3, and the last Beetle is in slot 4. With one open slot remaining, only one of the 2 plants above can spawn in. So, you can just fly up there and break the blocks without needing to use the Koopa shell. Using this new strategy and other smaller ones, Kurua set 2 100% records in March 2015. A 111.24 followed by a 111.02. The gap on the leaderboard was now enormous. 54 seconds between him and second place. He had set 12 of the category's last 13 world records.
What are you doing over there?
He had held the record nearly non-stop since 2012.
I just don't want to.
And now, his lead over anybody else in the world was nearly a full minute. And it was a good thing, because shortly after his 111.02,
I'm with you.
Kurua obtained a working holiday visa, meaning he was going to be moving to Japan for the next year. And he wasn't going to be doing any speedrunning while gone.
Oh shit.
He had plans to come back to 100% runs upon his return, but for the next 12 months, he couldn't defend his title. But fortunately for Kurua, his world record seemed to be in no danger. He left for Japan, still with no threats to the record in sight.
Oh shit.
Just 3 months into his absence, Kurua's record was gone. The guy who did it was named I Love Mario. When Kurua left, he was 54 seconds behind and didn't seem like a major threat. But a month later, the leaderboard looked a bit closer. And then it got a bit closer. And finally, on June 24th, 2015, he came through with this run. The first 110 in the game's history. I Love Mario would go on to set many records in Mario 2, Mario 3, and Mario Land 2 in the years to come, but this one was actually his very first Mario world record. While Kurua's run didn't have any huge mistakes, it still had flaws that I Love Mario was able to take advantage of. His big time saves revolved around building P-Speed, namely in 4-1, World 4's second fort, and 5-5. In each of these stages, he managed to build P-Speed early through precise platforming to save a couple seconds. They added up to be a pretty nice time save. 7-1 clip was second try, and the world as a whole was quite clean.
Ooh, that was clean.
Credit to I Love Mario. He had swooped in and taken a world record that looked to be pretty safe. Kurua was shocked. He knew his record wasn't perfect, but to be beaten after just 3 months away was definitely a surprise. But he was set on not doing attempts until he came back. Over the next few months, the leaderboard would become a bit cluttered at the top, but I Love Mario's run remained the only 110. The new year arrived with no changes.
Kurua beats it.
And finally, in the spring of 2016, Kurua came back. His record had only lasted 3 months, but I Love Mario's world record lasted the remaining 9. It was still the time to beat. So, how would Kurua respond? Well, in the past, Kurua tended to mix in other games with his 100% attempts. But this time around, he decided he was going to do an all-out grind. His goal wasn't just to get the record back. His goal was to lower the time as much as he physically could, because the time he was aiming for was a sub 1:10:30.
That's just not
This
possible.
was Karua's ultimate
That's
grind.
just not possible, chap.
To get there, Karua was gonna have to squeeze all the time out of 100% that he could. He had a couple ways to help. Part 1. Getting all the Koopa fire kills. At the end of each of the first 7 worlds, there's a Koopaling battle. The fastest way to defeat them is to use fireballs, but this can be quite difficult, since the Koopalings have seemingly random patterns that can throw everything off. However, their pattern can actually be determined ahead of time. It all depends on the time spent on the overworld map between the last level and the airship. Every few frames, the Koopaling's pattern changes, so if you spend the same amount of time navigating to the airship, the pattern will be the same and you can plan your fire kill ahead. This can still be problematic. In World 2, for instance, there are multiple spots you can be before the airship. So, Karua had to plan this out for each of the 7 worlds. What possible patterns he could get, and how they match with his overworld movement. It was painstaking, but it allowed him to be much more consistent with the fire kills. And part 2. As always, there were new strategies in this grind. Karua implemented 2 big ones. The first was in 6-10, a strategy that allowed you to maintain P-speed through the whole level and hang on to Fire Mario. It goes without saying that this requires brutally tough platforming, but the end result saves a few seconds throughout World 6. The other new strategy was in 7-7. We've seen a lot of tricks in World 7, but this is easily the worst of them all. The most brutal, random, difficult, and all-around awful strategy in the game. This is the 7-7 clip. To get this to work, you need to land on the corner pixel of the pipe. That means there's both a vertical and horizontal component of getting the clip. You need the correct vertical pixel, plus the correct horizontal pixel, and the correct subpixels for both the horizontal and vertical directions. If everything is done correctly, and you get lucky with the subpixels to get the clip first try, it saves 17 seconds over playing the stage normally. But getting it first try is both figuratively and literally a pipe dream. Past runners had tried for the 7-7 clip before, but not to much success. Karua avoided the trick over the years, but for this grind, the 17-second time save was too good to pass up. But every miss shaves a few seconds off of the time save, and by the 6th try, it's impossible to gain time. Karua only got it about 25% of the time by the 6th try, meaning 75% of runs were essentially killed by this one trick, an hour into the run. It's absolutely brutal. World 7 as a whole had turned into a nightmare. You've got the 7-1 clip, the 7-7 clip, the 7-9 clip, and several other difficult levels. But it's what Karua had to do if he wanted this grind to be a success. It all had to come together if Karua was going to pull this off.
He's got it.
After many weeks of practice, in the summer of 2016, Karua got to work.
That was a good summer.
On July 6th, Karua was on a solid run through World 3. He got great Hammer Brother movements and even got Door 3. The next few worlds were up and down, but he was within striking distance going into World 7, a position he had been in several times over the past few weeks. But the world got off to a good start. Second try 7-1 clip. The next few levels were clean as well, including the shell throw in 7-5. And then, he arrived at 7-7.
No way he does it. Yo!
This just got real. Although he lost some time later in the world, first try 7-7 was enough for a gold split. But there was still World 8, We've seen Karua struggle here before. And sure enough, in 8-1, he lost P-speed to lose a few seconds. But he still closed it out for a 1:10.52. For the first time in over a year, Karua was the 100% record holder. He was officially back. That was the game plan to get his goal. Take a lottery ticket into World 7, pray the ticket hits to get all the clips required, then hold it together in World 8. Karua had 23 seconds to go. This is what he did over the following weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the end of July 2016, Karua had a remarkable improvement,
Damn, 15 seconds.
just 5 seconds away from his goal. And finally, he had a run with a clean World 8. He saved 6 seconds in that world alone, which took the run into the 1:10.30s. There was still room to shave a few seconds off. He had lost fire in 4-1 and took a few tries to do the clips in World 7. But overall, it was a really clean run. There just wasn't much time left to save. With 3 world records in July, Karua was flying high. These 2 weeks had been among the most fruitful in his entire speedrunning career. So, he decided to take a short but well-deserved break. He returned in August and started doing more runs, needing just one more record to achieve his goal. But all of a sudden, it's like Karua ran into a wall. He wasn't seeing any more improvements. He was getting bad Hammer Brother movements, no clips in World 7, all of a sudden nothing was working.
Damn it.
And time started to pass. September came around, then October, and the record stayed at 1:10.34. Sometimes in speedrunning, we set goals that are too lofty. It's much easier to imagine a perfect run than to actually play it, and it seems that's what Karua had done. He had been a 100% record holder for 4 years, and knew what the culmination of all his skills could be. That would be a sub 1:10.30. But 3 months after his 1:10.34, despite a massive effort, Karua hadn't made any progress. 5 seconds away had to be good enough. This was the end of the road for Karua. And then came November 9th, 2016, when maybe the craziest run in Mario 3 history took place.
Shut up.
Do you remember anything about the attempt session leading up to it, or was it just like any normal day?
Honestly, I don't remember anything in particular about it.
Less
Yeah,
than
the start was
3,333.
pretty standard, I would say. The RNG was actually bad, so I was slightly behind, but World 1 and World 2, as long as you're within 2 or 3 seconds, it's not really gonna make a huge difference. So in the end, getting out of World 3, the pace was acceptable. Nothing special, but nothing bad. The run really started picking up at World 4. Basically, I got P-speed in every spot where I wanted it, particularly in the first and the second fort, so everything went right.
4 worlds into the run, Karua was 6 seconds ahead, putting him on pace for sub 1:10.30. But there was still a long way to go.
When I reached World 5, at that point I wasn't too excited about the run. In the entire run, World 5 is the one with the most RNG. The difference between
Hello,
good and bad
cutie.
RNG for the hammer bro movement is just insane. So I got a really low number of movements and I just nailed every single stage. Like, the world was virtually perfect. World 6 is, in my opinion, the second hardest world after World 7. It's more about the execution for World 6, and it's really, really intense. So many stages are difficult, and again, like World 5, execution was on top in every single stage. I don't think I missed a single thing.
Atkins, what am I going to say? This guy's the world record holder.
I think it was my best pace by 5 seconds entering World 7.
What am I going to do?
So, yeah, I was definitely feeling the pressure.
This was the best chance Kurua had ever had to get a sub 110.30. But he started off with a first try 7-1.
Getting 7-1 first try, you're always happy, but at the same time, I know 7-7 is where it's gonna be decided. So I was happy, but I was just waiting for 7-7 really.
And finally, Kurua arrived at 7-7. On the pace of his life, he just had to get this eventually, and he'd have a golden opportunity.
I think my heart rate rised quite a lot after getting 7-7 first try. Like, wow, this is actually happening. Getting the 7-9 zip was a bonus, just the cherry on top.
We had been looking at the wrong line all along. We're not talking about a sub 110.30 anymore. Unbelievably, Kurua was moments away from getting the world's first 109.
And it's weird because on one hand you're like, did I misjudge my goal? Or is it just that special? And I think it was just that special. That run it really was special.
But we had all seen Kurua's struggles in World 8 before. And now, with more on the line than ever before, he had to get a good World 8.
Interestingly, I wasn't feeling really pressured by World 8, even though I failed before. Despite that, I was very confident because I was playing well, so I wasn't really feeling much pressure in that regard, I think.
He kept going, level by level, getting closer to the 109.
Share.
And then, 8-1 happened. The truth is, I was actually not focused enough because I remember I was thinking ahead. I was thinking about a strat I was considering doing in the fort 2 stages later, and I pressed jump too early and didn't jump. And we saw the result. I didn't know if I could even finish the run because I was so upset at myself. And I ended up getting a hit in 8-2 because of it. I just didn't care at that point. I actually knew I would probably get the record if I didn't do anything incredibly stupid afterwards. So I expected to maybe get a record by, 5-6 seconds or something. Instead, I'm absolutely crushing my goal despite what happened. So I had really conflicted emotions about it. At the time I was really upset, but that run was so special that I still became quite happy about it quite quickly.
What a bizarre speedrun. Kurua had accomplished his goal. In fact, he had crushed it. Yet it felt so unfulfilling. He was in a position to take the record years ahead of its time, but fell short at the last minute. You know, after the dust had settled, did you have any thoughts about trying to lower the time further, or did you know that you were done?
I briefly considered continuing and getting another PB, but it would still be way worse, relatively speaking,
you just give up at that point.
That run could have been. So, I just need to stop there. I'm done.
That run was 6.5 years ago. Kurua hasn't done a 100% run since, and he stopped speedrunning as a whole in 2017. But my goodness, did he go out on top. This was the leaderboard the day Karua set the 1:10:19. This was the leaderboard a year later. The gap had closed by just 2 seconds. There's Mega Man 2 record holder Elonesia in second place. Let's move another year forward. Runners were starting to get into the 110s now, but still, Karua's record was comfortably on top. At this point, we're in late 2018, and these runners with 110s, Louis, Elonesia, Horstad, they were all excellent Mario 3 players, but none of their runs had world record potential. Even 2 full years later, none of these guys could catch up to Karua. It seemed like the 1:10:19 was destined to stay on top.
Mitch definitely comes back.
There seemed to be no hope. Wait a minute. Mitch had been a 100% record holder before, back in 2014. Since then, he had focused hard on Warpless, being ahead of Karua there for most of the last 4 years. If any runner in the top 10 had a shot of beating the 1:10:19, it would be Mitch. He had limited interest in 100% over the years, but in late 2018, he decided to give it another shot. His PB was a mid-111, and he very quickly rose up the leaderboard. By the end of November, he was in second place, 12 seconds behind Karua. He'd then achieve a 1:10:29, and later a 1:10:26. These runs were notable because they both had a chance at the world record entering World 7, but he couldn't get the first try clips that were in the 1:10:19. Even with the 20-second time loss in World 8, Karua's world record was so tough to go against. There was just no margin for error in the first 7 worlds. 2019 came around, and Mitch was still 7 seconds behind Karua's world record. On January 4th, Mitch got on a run roughly even with Karua's record entering World 3. He'd then proceed to lose time in each of the following 5 worlds. He lost Fire in 4-4 and lost P-Speed in 6-10.
But then he's gonna do
He
the
missed 7-9
clip.
clip and took 2 tries to get 7-7.
He's gonna,
But entering World 8, Mitch was actually going to have a shot at this, because he kept it close. Losing time against Karua's record was expected. Mitch was 16 seconds behind, and could make that time up in World 8. But of course, he had to avoid a critical mistake.
We did it. Nice.
what was the mistake?
Nice.
For the first time in 5 years, the 100% record belonged to Mitch. He didn't use many new strategies either. He simply let his skills from the past few years take him past Karua. Overall, it was an extremely balanced run, with solid Hammer Brother RNG and no bad worlds. And most importantly, after a 2-year reign at the top, the 1:10:19 was no longer the time to beat. Mitch and Karua were synonymous with Mario 3 speedrunning. For years, when you looked at the Warpless or 100% leaderboards, their names were always in the top 2 spots, and now was no exception. But who's in 3rd place? That would be Louis,
Hey, Baba
with a
Booey.
1:10:35. He had been sneaking up in the background ever since cutting the 111.
It's fucking
While
Louis.
Mitch was setting the record with a 1:10:14, Louis remained only 20 seconds behind.
Hey.
Easily the top active runner behind Mitch. And when Mitch stepped aside from 100% after setting the record, it was Louis' time to shine.
No fucking way. Nah, it's not my cousin. It's my friend's cousin. Ooh, we did the clip.
In July 2019, after a steady series of PB improvements, Louis broke through with a 1:10:08, taking the top spot by 6 full seconds.
Right, but someone's got to break
This was the
110.
first time in 4 years that neither Mitch nor Karua set the 100% record.
Yo.
And there's one key trick that Louis was able to use to his advantage. 7-1 subpixel manipulation. To get the 7-1 clip, your subpixel value needs to be correct. This value can range anywhere from 0 to 15, and normally it's impossible to pick your value. But there's a few rules you can use to help. Rule 1. Tapping left or right for one frame will usually decrease or increase it by one value, while tapping it for 2 frames will usually move it by 4 values. Rule 2. Having a subpixel value between 0 and 6 means the duck clip will work in 7-1. And Rule 3. When wrapping around from subpixel 15 to 0, Mario visually moves forward. After the World 6 Koopa fight, you have a brief window where you can set up your subpixels for the next level, which is 7-1. So, by quickly tapping right and stopping when you see Mario visually move, you'll usually stop between a value of 0 and 6.
I have no idea
This
what's going
makes
on.
the 7-1 clip much easier to hit on the first try as long as you do the inputs correctly.
Oh, that makes sense.
Which is exactly what Louis was able to do
that
in
makes
his
sense.
run.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So, 110.08 was the record. It had been 3 years since Karua's 110.19, and despite the run advancing quite a bit since then, nobody could match that run's potential. The 109 sat just out of
Miss,
reach.
when are you doing the fuck of
Louis
fan
would hold on
contest?
to the record for the next few months,
Yo.
but by late 2019, the desire to get under 110 picked up,
The fucking fan contest
Enough
should be
was
happening
enough.
soon. Squeak's about to come
and the
over.
race for the first 109 was officially on. Mitch was the favorite to get it, given his resume of past Mario 3 records.
This is where
But
Simply comes
runners
in.
like Louis and I Love Mario were close, and several other runners had times in the 110s as well. If any of these guys were actively running the game, they had a chance at this too. There was some clear time to save over Louis' record. There were a few stages where he missed P-Speed, he got some rough Hammer Brother luck in World 5, and missed the
Mizkif
Koopa
face.
Fire kill in World 6. So the question was, who would clean all that up first? Well, in November 2019, Mitch got on a super fast run. The first 3 worlds were all beautiful, and he saved time in World 4 by not missing P-Speed in the second fort. He got better Hammer Brother luck in World 5 to save a few seconds, and got the World 6
Damn,
Koopa Fire
-8.
kill. The stars had aligned. Mitch was 13 seconds ahead going into World 7, but it was time for the clips.
Ooh!
Oh, I went back to my roots, man. Thank God.
No way he one-shots this. Yo!
Okie
He matched Louis' first try clips. Here we are again, 109 pace into World 8. Mitch needed one more clean world, and this would be it.
What? Who does that? Get it together! No way, dude.
I mean,
How do I
that's
mess
not
up that level?
so
I
bad.
think I've lost like too much time at this point.
Well, it was still a world record, but once again, the 109 had been lost to World 8,
damn.
4 seconds away from the goal. Since he'd gotten the record back, Mitch stopped running 100% after this,
Pussy.
leaving the door open to others to get the 109. But 6 months later, barely anything had changed.
Here comes Simply.
Mitch was on top, Louis was in second, and pretty much the entire top 10 was the same. One exception. New to the top 10 was Maiba, who was in 6th place with a 110.32. Half a minute from the record, not being in the top 5. Surely Maiba wasn't going to be the guy to get this. Right? On May 11th, Maiba got on a run that had a slight mishap with the Hammer Brother fight in World 3.
Yeah, we had a farm.
He also got slow Hammer Brother movements in World 4 and missed P-Speed in the second fort. After a fantastic World 5 and a solid World 6, he was just a few seconds behind the record, but he was well ahead of his personal best. And the clips in World 7... Yo.
Nice. Dang.
Maiba was on the run of his life. Everything was working. Was he actually about to do this? Go straight from 6th to 1st place? Once again, just one world separated him from the first 109.
This is why he's 6th place. I'm telling you, Jeff.
It's over.
How did this keep happening? He lost 18 seconds in World 8.
Ooh.
And again, the first 109 had slipped away. It was enough for Maiba to move up to 3rd place, but knowing what this run could have been was pretty crushing. By late 2020, nearly 4 years had passed since Karua's run. Still no 109. There had certainly been enough chances, but nobody could quite convert. Well, in September 2020, another runner began climbing up the leaderboard.
Simply.
His name was Chikubi.
Oh.
He took his PB under 110.20 and then into 3rd place. Maybe he could be the one to do this. In the past, Chikubi was pretty much constantly in the top 10, but had never threatened the world record. Yet in late 2020, he began a steady march of PB improvements, culminating with this run on October 16th. Chikubi got fantastic Hammer Brother luck in the middle worlds. Great patterns, quick movements, it was pretty much the best case scenario, and it all added up to an incredible 11-second lead over the world record after World 5. The best pace anyone had ever been on. He started bleeding time in World 6 with a missed star grab, late P-speed in 6-4, and a movement of 4. And 7-7 clip was 4th try, which is good but not great. But despite all that, he was still ahead of the record into World 8. Once again,
Do they gain
with a
anything from
really
getting
good
these records?
world,
Yes.
he could get the 109.
They get to brag
And
to
guess
the other
what?
people in the world
Chikubi
record.
played an excellent World 8. His only mistake was a
they get
very
laid at
small
GDQ.
one in Bowser's Castle. But he didn't get the 109 because he got pulled in by all 3 hands. Each hand has a 50-50 chance of pulling you in, which loses a second and a half over manually selecting the level. The odds of being pulled in by all 3 hands is just 1 in 8.
Yo.
If he was pulled in by 1 hand or fewer, this would have been the 109.
Oh my god.
Instead, he had to settle for a
No
110.02.
way.
A world record, yes, but this was getting ridiculous. The 109 still eluded everyone. Maybe they needed some more help. So many times they had been just a
This is where
few
Simply
seconds
comes in.
away. With a faster strategy or two,
This is a chat.
it could push them over the top. Well, in October 2020, Mitch came back to the 100% grind. And sure enough, he had a few new strategies to help. And thankfully, they were all in World 7, the toughest world in the game. For 7-1, he had a new subpixel manipulation setup for a standing jump, which was just a little bit easier than the duck jump. In 7-2, he had a new strategy he had adopted from the TAS. Instead of turning back at the start, you can just go forward and intentionally take damage, then just barely build P-speed before reaching the gap.
That's what I do.
It's quite difficult, but saves a little over 2 seconds.
Oh.
But the big one was in 7-5. If you equip a P-wing and a star, then do a frame-perfect jump into the corner of the pipe, you're practically guaranteed to have the correct subpixels to clip through the wall. Now, a frame-perfect jump isn't easy, but this saves more than 6 seconds if done correctly, which is huge. Add that to Fast 7-2's time save, and suddenly Mitch had a lot more wiggle room to get the 109. So he got back to attempts, and on October 28th he had a great run going. 2 seconds behind the record after World 6, Mitch knew he had time to save coming up with the new strategies.
Don't fuck with
And
me.
he did. First try 7-1, fast 7-2,
Where's the 7-7?
the clip in 7-5, and second try 7-7.
Yo!
Just like that, Mitch was 5 seconds ahead, putting him on pace for a 109.57. Here we go again. World 8 stood
Fred, I love
between
you.
Mitch and the world's first 109.
Oh, I love you too, buddy. He doesn't fuck it up.
That's it. That probably cost me the sub 110.
No. Why do we keep playing with unless?
That's it. It didn't give it to me. Unbelievable. It's over. Ah, come on, man!
No way!
Ah, come on, dude.
Yo, what?
How did this keep happening? It was another record, but yet another failed 109. Karua's run 4 years ago set the trend, and ever since then, World 8 was like a shield to the 109. Mitch took damage, he missed P-speed, he failed a clip. It just seemed impossible to get a good World 8 on a good pace. Mitch, Jacoby, Maiba, Karua, some of the best players in the world had
Here comes
tried
Simply,
and
baby.
failed. The 109 just wasn't happening. Did somebody else need to step up to get it done? Well, a few more months passed and 2021 came around.
Yo, Mizzy Wizzy.
Early that year,
Thanks for
Mitch
everything.
decided to give the 100% grind one more try. He was 2 seconds away and had far
it.
more time than that to save in World 8 alone. He could do this. And on February 7th, 2021, Mitch had this run.
Damn, that was too
It
easy.
bled time early. He got worse luck in World 2 and made a mistake in World 4's first fort. He also had a time loss in 5-2 and had to travel far to fight the Hammer Brothers. As such, he was far behind entering World 6, but he cleaned up some small mistakes there and had an excellent World 7. This looks familiar. Mitch was a bit behind, but had several seconds to save coming up. Just once, World 8 had to be clean. This had to be the time.
Sweetie
to do
just
it.
beat 16 star, really? By how much? $14.35? Yo, what?
Surprise, right?
He
So
didn't make
not
us-
surprised.
Wait, can we watch that after this
The
chat?
one level with the bad RNG.
It happened again. Another time loss in World 8. Was the 109 just cursed to never exist?
Yo, cause one of my mods
All
linked it
Mitch
to
could
VOD.
do now was finish out the run and see what time he got.
Wah.
We did it! We did it! Oh, man! We did it! The minute barrier! We did it! Yes!
In 2016, Karua paved the path. In 2020, Maiba and Shikubi provided hope. And in 2021, Mitch made it a reality. It wasn't a perfect run, but aside from taking damage, which cost a couple seconds, Mitch finally had a great World 8. The whole community could take a breather. The 109 was real. But the breather didn't last very long. Just a month and a half later, Mitch lost his world record. And the runner to take it was Maiba, the same guy who missed the first 109 months earlier thanks to a bit of a meltdown in World 8. But this time, there was no meltdown. He got a 109.58, beating Mitch by frames. Maiba ended
like
up
everybody's
missing
gonna
some
clear
of
this and
the
then stop
toughest
doing it.
P-speed strategies
I would
that
just give up
Mitch
at this
got.
point.
4-5 and 5-1 in particular are two of the toughest spots in the run to get P-speed. Ultimately, Maiba wasn't able to get either of them. Instead, he aimed to clean up mistakes that Mitch had made, particularly in World 6. And that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Chat, we're watching the
Maiba
16 star
bled a
record
bit of
after this.
time through World 5, but had a nearly mistake-free World 6, despite not getting early P-speed in 6-4. Even though he lost time in both 7-1 and 7-2, he left himself just enough room to snag the record.
I don't know, but 109, yes! Yatta!
So, here we are. It's mid-2021. The 109 had
Simply
been
comes in here,
accomplished.
gets a 104.
Mitch was the first to get it, but Maiba had finally gotten the
discovers
record he'd been looking
BLJs
for
in,
for so
on the
long.
7th level.
Everyone was happy. What more was there to do?
Watch.
Well, people have a natural tendency to keep pushing the limits. If their goals have been accomplished, they set new ones. Maybe just to add one more chapter to a storied history. Or maybe to see what the human limits are. It was for all these reasons and more that in July 2021, Mitch returned to do one final grind of Mario 3 100%.
My goal time in mind after Maiba beat my run was just to get it back. In Mario 3, every time you break a boundary, massive amounts of pressure is lifted off of your chest. What? What an insane World 2. I got off-screen wand grab, and it's a trick where you can jump off the wall and grab the wand at the top of the screen, and once you do that, you don't have to screen wrap down, and it saves about 4 seconds. You kind of tighten up a little bit after off-screen wand grab. It gets serious when you get it. World 3, one of the biggest ones is the Runaway Bro, and what that means is one of the Hammer Brothers that you want to fight as early as possible, right, because you want them to stop moving, he moves right across level 6. And if he does that, every level you beat until you get to level 6 or past level 6, he's going to keep moving. So after getting off-screen wand grab and then that happened to me, it's a real gut punch right there, because I mean that's a solid like anywhere between 5 to even 9 seconds depending on how far he goes. World 4 just started to work really clean. I don't think I got a massive amount of Hammer Brother movements, and then I got another off-screen wand grab, so that just completely changed the route again. I mean, it was just a bag of emotions. So we come into World 6 and I'm playing great, but then I'm just not keeping the tight P-speed strategies that I should be. 6-3 didn't work, 6-4 also didn't work, and I was getting some pretty big Hammer Brother movements. But then I missed one of the newer installments of strategies in 7-5 by using a P-Wing and a star. So right there with 7-1 and 7-5 was like 10 seconds lost already. I was too far behind on my run, so I had to kind of switch up what I was doing, and that involved doing the clips in 7-9, which there's 4 of them. Odds of you getting them, you know, all first try are very small, but they just save enough time that if you go for them and get them all, you might be able to save the run. Now the issue with that is that if you get all 4 of them, there's nowhere to get your fire flowers. So I had to change up my routing on the fly and go for the hammer suit strategy, which is pretty close to the same for the end part of World 7. So in 7-9, going for the clips, I got 2-1-2-1, and what that means is that with the 4 clips, 2 for the first one, took me 2 tries, 1 was first try, the 3rd clip was 2nd try, and the 4th clip was 1 try. Yeah, so we're approaching World 8, and we just had to do this on the fly hammer suit. You know, don't overextend it, just try and get the strats that you know. And so 8-1 and 8-2 and 8-4 went pretty smooth. I didn't have any massive mistakes that cost me a whole lot of time. And then we just clutched out Bowser's Castle.
Yes! What? No way! No way!
It's the Mario.
It felt great to get the world record back from Maiba and to know that I was able to come and bring it back and get a time that, better represents my ability. It felt really good. After getting the record back with a run like that, I had Runaway Bro in World 3. That's such a massive time loss. And I was feeling very consistent, so I just didn't want to stop there. I wanted to keep going and see if I can get that free World 3 time save and maybe a couple more off-screen wall grabs, see what happens.
Mods, VIP that guy.
In World 2, I didn't get the off-screen wand grab, so I automatically lose 4 seconds. We all know that I got the Runaway Bro, and that is a big time save if I don't get it. And luckily enough, I didn't get that. We came and clutched out a World 1, 2, and 3, pretty much being on pace with the world record. Nothing crazy. World 4 is a great example of soul crushing, and then I got a movement 4 and movement 6, and it really pushes you down because World 4's got a lot of hard strategies. To keep the run going, I have time to save in World 6, let's just keep going. So World 6 actually came out pretty smooth. I didn't have any big mistakes. I started World 7 being behind by about 2.5 seconds or something. I needed to clutch out 7-1 first try, which I did, which was really good. 7-2 went well. 7-5 though is another level with big time save. I didn't get the clip in the previous world record, and I do nail it, which is really good. So at that moment right there, I know, okay, this run is real now. We nailed 7-7. We got that third try, which is the same, so we didn't lose any time. And then we just finished off World 7 normally with Fire Flower, which brought me in somewhere around minus 7 seconds compared to the world record. So it was serious at that point.
Shit!
With this run, I was finally able to execute some new P-speed strategies in World 8 in the hand levels, where you use a star and 8 trap 1, and you turn back and you get like P-speed. I was able to do that in this run, and then I got a P-speed strategy in hand trap 2, which is another about a second time save.
What is Mitch here?
What? Being able to finally clutch
Nintendo
out
guy,
a
is that Mitch? Is that
semi-decent World
confirmed?
7, clips worked, 7-7, third try. That's everything you would ask for in a World 7. So I felt really good about this run, so I was really happy with it.
Is it actually him? Yo, what up, dude?
Did
Wait,
your
he just
goals
subbed?
shift at all after getting the 52?
Wait, he subbed with
or
the
were you
tier
like,
1.
let me just keep going and see what
Yo, what
time
up,
I
bro?
can get?
So my answer is I have no idea why I kept going. So it was a normal day. I was just doing my normal runs, and World 1 went really well. And World 2, I got some pretty decent RNG, and the run was looking good, and then all of a sudden I got an off-screen wand grab. And that is the best way to start your 100% runs, off-screen wand grab. And I started to get all movements of 1 in World 3, and I was like, is this actually going to be like the God World 3 run? Did the normal strats, banked on some Hammer Brother RNG, and World 3 cleaned up really nicely.
Oh, mods, you
World
can say that
4
in 10
normally
minutes
ends a
following
lot of 100% runs, a lot of weird movements, but luckily for me, I ended up being 0.08 off my gold, so
This is sick.
absolutely
Thanks for
everything
watching.
that
What's up,
happened in World 4 was what I wanted to happen. We had an amazing World 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is incredibly rare in 100%. I opened up World 5 with a movement of 4.
Yep. Right away, first movement, a movement of 4.
And then another movement of 4.
2 movements of 4 in a row. Let's go, baby.
And then another movement of 4.
We got another one! 3 movements of 4 in a row. What a surprise.
And I got another movement of 4.
4 movements in a row, baby. Let's go.
So the rest of World 5 went really well. For the most part in World 5, I did manage to successfully do all the P-speed strategies that I want to do.
Yo, Mitch, did you hear
World
about
6, the Hammer
16
Brothers
star?
were really nice to me, and I didn't make any other slip-ups, so I actually came out of World 6 ahead. Normally, I'm pretty nervous when I'm ahead of the world record going to World 7. I had standard nervous, but this wasn't anything crazy special at the moment. So the first half of World 7
I thought it was 6
went
seconds
really, really well. 7-1 first try, and I got fast 7-2. 7-5 though went beautifully. I managed to get the star, the P-wing, get that clip perfectly, and I was able to get a good tail swipe, clean under, keep all my speed. Because at first I was saying, you know, when I enter World 7, it's not like anything special, but World 7 is starting to make everything that happened before that amazing. So I'm very nervous at this point. After getting 7-1 and 7-5, I am really, really nervous.
People pog, wow. Wait, he one-shots this, ready?
I was so like blown away that I actually nailed it first try on a run like that. I just did not believe that I got it first try. I couldn't believe it. You rarely ever maximize your gameplay with 7-7 perfectly. As soon as I nailed 7-7, I was extremely nervous, and I had to go into 7-9, and we ended up clutching 7-9 with an actual time save. We were able to clutch out the Fortress and clutch out the Piranha Plant stage. It was by far the best World 7 I've ever had, alongside the best run I've ever had, as you can tell. But it was insane. It was insane. So after a World 7 like that and a run like that, going into World 8, I was extremely nervous. There's so many little things that can screw you up. I'm on this run that is just absolutely insane. After all those thoughts running through my head, we approach hand stage 1, and I actually nailed it with the start. 8-1 worked out okay. 8-2, I was surprised worked out
nice.
Okay. One of the things to note with Bowser's Castle is that the 3 hardest things I would say in the level is the statue room at the end, getting P-speed there, the 1-up clip, and then the last one is the duck jump at the very end on the donuts. Once you get past the donut spot, you can say to yourself, oh my god, I actually did it. However, Bowser does have one pattern where he can jump and shoot the fireball at the same time, and when he does that, the fireball will be shot where you're standing. You can't avoid it. There's nothing you can do.
Oh no. Yo.
I'm so shaky.
Oh,
Oh, it's over.
what? No way! No way! Oh my god, I can't even...
It ended up being my most impressive run that perfectly represented my abilities as a gamer, which never happens in speedrunning. Everyone in speedrunning is always trying to chase their potential, and you never hit it. It is a run where I don't ever have to go back for it again, but I'm going to. But I don't have to, which is really cool.
Nearly
Damn,
2
Mitch.
years have passed since this run, and it's remained on top without any close calls. To this day, there are runners actively trying to beat it, including Mitch
And he's
himself.
just in my fucking chat, not giving a
As
fuck.
incredible as it is, one day this record too will fall, just like all the ones that came before it. This has been the history of Mario 3 100% world records. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to be notified when I upload a new video, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks.
That was a really good video.